Hey girl,
Hi, friend. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just got back from Paris.
Ooh.
It was fun. It was a blast. Honestly, the fact that it was 8 hours, it did not feel like 8 hours, but that must be what it's like when you're in premium economy. I couldn't do it in the peasant seating in the back of the plane. I couldn't do
Oh,
that for eight
God.
hours.
He goes to
I
Paris for
couldn't.
36 hours and flies slightly upgraded and
Literally.
now is insufferable. Just
Well, like
kidding.
even when we sit exit row, like I like the extra leg room, but those fucking seats are just so uncomfortable. Like even just going to Dallas, I'm miserable.
Yeah. We also had a very uncomfortable seating at True Crime Obsessed Live the other night.
Oh, girls, if y'all are listening, that seating was some of the jankiest shit ever.
Yeah,
Great show, great people and ambiance, but the fucking seats, oh my god. Family reunions have better seating.
the Vic. You gotta give us big ass girls some ass room. Like I was like squished up against these poor
Uh,
girls next to me.
well, what are we conversing here today about?
So today what we're talking about is we're calling this segment now Brooke's Bylaw Business. Um we thought of a
I love it.
fun creative name for it. But we are talking about the Byrd Shepard Act, or Shepard Byrd Act, it's technically called.
Hmm.
And we're talking about it because we have covered both of their cases now. And so we would like to talk a little bit about this really important legislation that came out of uh, the horrible, horrible things that happened to both Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr.
Hmm.
So I guess, do you want to say anything else about it before I start?
No, it
Okay.
was just I'm still trying to recover from everything we talked about in the James Byrd episode.
Yeah,
Mentally.
yeah, I know. Having flashbacks of the mental images that were produced in that. Okay.
Oh, yikes.
So yeah, so the official short title, which is like the colloquial title, I guess, is the
Mm.
Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009. So this bill was sponsored by Senator Edward M. Kennedy, who was the Democratic, one of the Democratic senators from Massachusetts. Yes, he's like a Kennedy. He's JFK's little
Oh,
brother.
wow. Holy
Um,
fuck.
and so when you look on Wikipedia and it'll be like, like family members, and it'll say like spouse, and then it'll say siblings, and then it'll say children or
Yeah.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
For them, there is no like distinction of anything. It just says Kennedy family because there's so fucking many of them, and they're all so famous that like they were just like, we're
Wow.
just gonna, and they get like their own like Kennedy family article on Wikipedia, so it like is a link to something.
Wow.
But
That's so
anyway,
funny that he is tied to this. And in the James Byrd episode, we talked about Jackie Kennedy's pink suit and how it's hidden for 100 years. So
and
it's weird that
and JFK
we
is gonna
talked
come
about
up
that.
later too.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
How funny.
So a little bit of background on Senator Edward M. Kennedy. He was born February 22nd, 1932. So yes, he's younger than JFK, just as
Jesus.
a reminder. He served in the US Army from 1951 to 1953. He never got deployed, which is during the Korean War, so like lots of people are getting deployed
Mm.
because of his father girl's political connections. Imagine that. So he actually just kind of hung out in Paris for his service, but because he did serve in the
Mm.
army and as a senator, when he died on August 25th, 2009, he did get buried at Arlington.
Mm.
He played football at Harvard. He was actually suspended for a little while for his grades, and he then because he was like so scared of getting worse grades, he had someone else take his Spanish test for him that he really
Oh,
needed
fuck.
to pass, and he got caught for that, so he was suspended. But his suspension also like coincided with his army service, so
Mm.
it all kind of worked out for him. But then after his army service was over, he returned to Harvard, and actually was like a totally different person and became like a way better student and everything. So
Wow.
Army worked out really well for him, even though he didn't get deployed. So he became a senator on November 7th, 1962, and
Mm.
served continuously until his death, so he was a senator for almost 47 years, which,
Holy
like,
fuck.
this is the one time that I'm okay with it because I agree with most of his politics, but, like, holy
Yeah.
shit, people, like, why? I'll
Yeah.
never understand why senators and congressmen don't have the same, like, you know, like, they're like, presidents are only allowed to serve for 8 years. Senators should have
Yeah.
something
Yeah. They have
similar.
a cap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a cap. That's a good word for it. My brain is not good. So yeah, so he was a senator for almost 47 years. In 1980, he ran for president but lost to Jimmy Carter. And
Wouldn't that be some shit if he lost to his brother?
I don't think they would run against each other. They would not that would not be good for the family,
Yeah.
uh
The talk at the
pursuit of
country
power.
club, though, that would be hot tea.
um a lot of people think that, like, in some of the political articles that I read about him, say that it's because that he only lost the presidency because he had gotten in trouble for leaving the scene of an accident that he was driving, and his passenger passed away as a result of the accident.
What the fuck?
I know.
Did he push the passenger out and leave him there?
Yeah, that's some shit that he fucking murdered somebody, basically.
Wow, holy
Yeah,
fuck.
and again, daddy's,
Name.
connections probably helped. In his senatorial, is that the right word? I don't know, career, um, he and his team wrote more than 300 bills that were enacted into law, which is a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this one that we're talking about specifically today, the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Act Crimes Prevention, or the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009, was maybe his last one. I couldn't
Mm,
confirm that, but yeah, it's because this was like in
wow.
2009 and that was when he died.
Mhm.
So, it was enacted as Division E of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2010. So, like, I guess they were voting on it, even though it's like titled the Act of 2009, it's because that's when they were like voting on it, and then it would
Mhm.
become law like January 1 because it's like for the upcoming year.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's section 249 of Title 18, and it provides funding and technical assistance to state, local, and tribal jurisdictions to help them more effectively investigate and prosecute hate crimes.
Mm.
They can also provide technical, forensic, prosecutorial, or any other form of assistance in the criminal investigation or prosecution of a hate crime. And they will also prioritize rural communities when the when the perpetrator has committed a crime in more than one jurisdiction, due to the fact that it's harder to get the uh, conviction in the rural places because they just don't have as much
Mhm. The
resource. Yeah.
resources. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it was heavily pushed through by the families of the victims. So, Dennis and Judy Shepard for Matthew
Mhm.
Shepard's family, and then James Byrd Jr.'s sister, especially
Louvain.
Louvain. Yes, Betty Boatner was his other sister. That was like heavy. Those were like the two main sisters, but I'm sure they all like helped where they could. So we know kind of what it does. Let's talk a little bit about like the actual wording of the bill. So, criminalizes willfully caused bodily harm or attempting to do so with fire, firearm, or other dangerous weapon when 1. A crime was committed because of actual or perceived race, color, religion, national origin of any person, or 2. The crime was committed because of the actual or perceived religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability of any person, and the crime affected interstate or foreign commerce or occurred within federal special maritime and territorial jurisdiction, which is a
That's a mouthful.
huge mouthful. Yes. So that's like the
Yeah.
official legal wording of the
Okay.
bill. Like that's like the first paragraph
Uh-huh.
of the bill.
Well,
So
it's good that it's broad and it's, like, not easily left up to, like, open interpretation. So it's good that they, like, really
yes.
narrowed in on things.
They really did narrow in on things. But if you like when you first read that, sometimes it can sound a little bit weird because there's like this seemingly weird clause at the end specific that says, and the crime affected interstate or foreign commerce, which sounds really
Mm.
weird, right?
Yeah.
But actually, the commerce part is because if you're a minority group, it might force you to move away just to get away from the bigotry or to like pursue other opportunities.
Mm.
Two, minorities are prevented from purchasing goods and services, obtaining or keeping employment, or participating in other commercial activity, which
Mm.
is like that affects the economy a lot. Three,
Yeah.
frequently perpetrators cross state lines to commit their crimes,
Mhm.
which is what makes it a federal case, which is why then they get to help with like the prosecutorial part of it. And four, state sponsored infrastructure should not be used to assist in the committing of crimes. So even if you're driving within your city, but if you're driving on a road that has been paid for by federal tax dollars or state tax dollars, right? Like
Uh-huh.
that's affecting our economy, is like the
Yeah.
reasoning behind that.
Wow. Wow, okay.
I know. So you hear things like it affects interstate commerce, and you're like, what the fuck? But like
What the
when
fuck
you
is that? Yeah.
break it down into these different parts, this is why I think it's so important that we like actually talk about these laws and things like that,
Yeah.
because it makes a lot more sense. And it's so easy, especially right now in 2023. We're all very upset. We're all very like on the defensive right now because of things that have been happening in our government, things, rights that are being taken away, things like that. And I totally understand
Mhm.
that. And so it's easy to read something like this and be like, well, they're just saying that the only thing that matters is the economy. And then
Right.
we're using that as an excuse to like work our way around these hate crimes or whatever. And it's like, actually, no,
Mhm.
like what we're doing is narrowing it down to be like, in any case, we can
Yeah.
use this as a defense. And so this is
That's
actually a
amazing.
good thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So they can also then prosecute if there's any interference with the commerce, like if there's like commerce activities in the uh like happenings of the crime. So like in the
Mm.
James Byrd Jr. case, right, like they like went and bought alcohol that then they like
Right.
used as part of like their luring of James
Uh-huh.
Byrd Jr. Same,
Holy shit,
yeah,
wow.
same thing with Matthew Shepard. Like they met him at a
Yeah.
bar, so they were like spending
Mhm.
money, contributing to the economy, and then they can like use that as a
Wow.
reason to federally go after these cases. Which
Holy
obviously
fuck.
this bill did not exist before either of those cases, so that did
Mhm.
not happen. But that's like an example of how you can use
Yeah.
this law for that.
Very cool.
So there's three significant subsections of this law. So it criminalizes violent acts, and attempts to commit violent acts undertaken with a dangerous weapon. So like we talked about, like with a firearm or whatever. When those
Mhm.
acts occur because of the actual or perceived age, color, religion, or national origin of any person. And under that, um, it's a 10-year maximum if no death occurs and they can't prove kidnapping, aggravated sexual abuse, or attempted murder. So if you were just to assault somebody because of any of these protected classes, like
Mhm.
I come up to you and say, you raging homosexual, and I spray you with pepper
Mhm.
spray, that's still a dangerous weapon, and I'm committing an act of violence against you because of your like sexuality. I can get 10
Uh-huh.
years for that because I clearly was not trying to
Wow.
murder you,
Right.
but I can get
Yeah.
up to 10 years for that, which is still a lot
Fuck.
just for pepper spraying somebody.
Yeah.
Um but if at any way they can say that I either kidnapped you, aggravated sexual abuse, or attempted murder of you, then it automatically becomes a potential for life in those cases.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, the second like subsection is it criminalizes violent acts and attempts to commit violent acts undertaken with a dangerous weapon when those acts occur because of the actual or perceived gender, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Oh, right. So the first part would have been if I called you some sort of like Puerto Rican slur, right?
Mhm.
So the second one is that if I call you a raging homosexual.
Mm.
Um, this also protects in the 13th Amendment, they mention different categories of people for like um the like when you can't enslave somebody. But they, at the time things were not as defined as they are now. So
Mhm.
the this act helps to kind of like bolster out the 13th Amendment to say that like there are more categories than there were at the time of the creation of the 13th Amendment in of the US
Okay.
Constitution. So any race and ethnicity that was not defined at the time of the passing of the 13th Amendment is now covered by this Hate Crimes Act.
Wow.
Um, and then the government must also, in order to like use this, they must prove that the crime was in or affected interstate or foreign commerce, like we talked about earlier.
Uh, uh-huh.
And then the third subsection is that they can prosecute crimes committed because of any of the characteristics defined in 1 or 2. So basically, all of those categories defined above. And when they occur in a special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the U.S. So that SMTJ that I've mentioned a couple of times, what that
Mhm.
means is that basically, even if it's not on like actual continental US or Hawaii or Mississippi, Hawaii or Alaska,
Mm.
can you imagine if Mississippi just wasn't like attached to the rest of the US? Um
Uh,
those two, if it's not in the 50 states, but it that includes anything that's like a US owned like military ship or plane or something like that,
mm.
even
Mhm.
if it's landed in France, it's still a part of the US. So if I
Yeah.
did that to you while we were on a military base in Germany, I can still be prosecuted for that by the US
Okay.
federal government. It doesn't have to go to the France,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
uh, justice system.
Uh-huh.
So that's all that that's saying. So some things, I guess, like clarifying this bill, it doesn't protect against threats of violence, but there are other laws that might protect you against a threat of violence. So that's like, the whole freedom of speech thing that people are saying.
Mhm.
Like, you can say, I
Mhm.
can call you the anti-gay F word if I want to.
Mhm.
But if I then call you the anti-gay F word and then I spray you with pepper spray, that's when they can step in.
Okay.
And then also bodily injury does not, which is like a phrase that's used a lot in this, does not include solely emotional or psychological harm. So you can't then say, okay, well, her
Mm.
standing on the street corner spouting her bullshit made me
Mhm.
go insane. You would have to have like a physical scar from it or something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um, if you want assistance through this act, basically, you have to apply through the attorney general. So like there's probably channels within your local jurisdiction, like you might go to your DA first, then the attorney general, whatever, to say like we want to prosecute this under this act and that entitles us to federal assistance for this. So
Mm.
like this is why we deserve that federal assistance, basically.
Mhm.
But there are limits. Each jurisdiction is limited to $100,000 per calendar year. So
Oh, that's kinda not a lot.
it's not a lot when you think about it for like the city of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
But part of the
Yeah.
reason why they're doing that is that idea of prioritizing the rural communities because,
Mm.
right, like we have the resources to continue to prosecute. Like we have so many district attorneys here or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
that can help with that versus, you know, Port Orange, Florida, where I'm from, does not.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
$100,000 is a lot of assistance to
Yeah.
them. Um, but and then it like resets each year. So if there's and like I guess that's kind of the hope is that there's not going to be more than one of these like really bad
Sure.
cases per year, especially for some of those smaller jurisdictions. So,
Right.
and it's not one of those like use it or lose it things where like you have this $100,000 budget, but then if you don't use it, then it just goes away for the next year. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like that because it's like a
Oh,
totally
okay.
different system. Um, the nationwide budget for 2010 and 2011, respectively, was $5 million each. And that was just when this was
Mm.
created, obviously, because it was created in
Mm-hmm.
2009. So I don't know what the budget is now. I couldn't find like definite answers on that, but I'm sure that it has gone up from 5 million. So
Yeah.
even if that's you know, like if that's divvied up exactly 100,000, that's still 500 jurisdictions that they were able to help in one
Wow.
year. So it's pretty
That's
good.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then um this bill does not change any of the existing evidence laws. So some people were worried about that when they first introduced this bill, that like, you know, it made it easier on some people to provide evidence to like prove these things, or it made it harder for certain people. Like there was a lot of arguments on that. Doesn't have anything to do with the evidence that you
Mm.
have. It just is about the ability for federal aid to help prosecute, and it gives a different class of uh crime for sentencing purposes is basically what
Okay.
the net effect of
Ye-
this is.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't override anything that is constitutionally protected, so speech, religion, peaceful protesting, etc. Um, and again, on that like free speech part, the Constitution does not protect speech, conduct, or activities consisting of planning for, conspiring to commit, or committing an act of violence.
Mm.
So, if you are conspiring to commit, you can still be prosecuted for it.
Wow.
You do not get to be an asshole and just say, well, I never actually did it.
I know.
Because people love to say that shit. Okay, so the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that we mentioned earlier, just to read them properly. So the 13th Amendment is that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, which is like a lot of people's issue with it, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, no more slaves, even though, according to some data that we have seen, there are more people in modern slavery today than there ever were in actual times of slavery.
Isn't that some shit?
We'll do an episode on that later. The 14th Amendment basically gives citizenship to former slaves because everyone who was born on U.S. soil is a U.S. citizen, regardless of where your parents are from or how you got here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 15th Amendment is that the right of citizens of the U.S. to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So these are kind of the ones that made all people equal under the eyes of the law. And so that's why this Shepard-Byrd Act is sort of like bolstering those um, amendments, saying that like race, color, and previous condition of servitude does not cover all of the classes that we have today, because now we have disability, we have, national origin,
Mm-hmm.
things like that that are we didn't really talk about back in whatever year these were
Right.
passed,
Yeah.
the 1850s, I think. So, the last couple of things I would like to talk about this uh act is
Mm-hmm.
some of the repercussions that have happened since it was uh, written into law.
Okay.
So, crime data, one of my other favorite things. Law,
I love this.
data, put them together. Crime data, I love it. Okay. Um, so according to FBI statistics, during Barack Obama's presidency, so from 2009 to 2016, Black victims of racial hate crimes fell by 23.5%, which is huge.
Wow.
Since Trump announced his candidacy in 2015, so there's a little bit of overlap in this data, but until the end of his first year as president in 2017, there was an 11.5 increase in Black victims of racial hate
Oh
crimes.
no. That's
So
not surprising, but to put a number on
I
it.
know. And especially to compare those two numbers side by
Yeah.
side like that.
Yeah,
So
that's a stark difference.
fell by 23.5 and then rose again by 11.5.
Fucking hell.
So if anybody wants to say that Trump is not a racist and didn't contribute to this, here you go. Here's some actual
Right.
statistics. And this is
Right.
FBI data. This is not an independent study. This is fucking FBI data. You cannot dispute
Uh-huh.
this. Michael Cohen, who we all know and love,
Uh-huh.
if you don't, Trump's former attorney and fixer, made
Oh
everything go away
god.
under Trump, told
Yes.
Congress under oath that Trump is a racist who thought black people were too stupid to vote for him. I just like the fact that there are people who support you and you say things like that. I can't. Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and then the prosecutor, or excuse me, the district attorney who prosecuted James Byrd Jr.'s murders said in a Newsweek article in 2017 that, quote, the current administration, their choice of words, and the way that they present things and argue things, it polarizes everybody. I think it encourages some of these fringe white supremacist groups to be more active. In general, I think that the trend is going in the right direction, but the current tone in our politics is not helpful. Which, like,
Wow.
this is a man from Texas. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And when was that statement made?
like in 2017, 2018, something like
Wow.
that. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so they were talking about this data and like how this act did a lot of good because it allows us to prosecute more, but
Yeah.
that there's still a lot of issues. And one of those issues is that there's a massive underreporting by victims. So the Department of Justice in the US estimates that about 250,000 hate crimes per year are happening. But according
Oh.
to the FBI data, there's only about 6,000 being reported each year. That's only
Oh
a
no.
5% reporting rate.
That's not enough.
That's not enough.
I don't like
And
that.
that's like this whole thing, right? Is that if under Trump people are being more racist, then people aren't
Mhm.
even willing to come forward because they're like, oh, well, if our president is literally a racist fuck, like, who's to
Right.
say that,
Why
like, the
not?
local sheriff in my small Texas town is not also a racist fuck? Like, and
Exactly.
now I'm not protected. So,
Ugh.
yeah,
How does one person like this make so many millions of Americans comfortable
I
with this
know.
behavior?
It's, yeah, it's bad. And
Ugh.
so we'll never know the full impact of the increase in hate crimes due to Donald Trump's rhetoric because of this underreporting and the effects that this
Yeah.
has had on it. And then also
Fucking
when we
hell.
have instances like the Jussie Smollett case, where
Uh-huh.
if you don't remember Jussie Smollett, I know you do, Amelia, but for the listeners,
Yes. Yes.
he lied and hired some men to fake a racist attack on him in Chicago,
Mhm.
and he got found out about that.
That was
So
big for a
it
while.
was big. It
'Cause
was
what show was he on? Was it,
Empire.
Empire?
Yeah.
Yes. What a
Um
fucking ugh.
yeah, he sucks. He's bringing us all back a few decades. So that also affected how comfortable people are reporting. And
Mhm.
especially because after the Jussie Smollett thing happened and he was prosecuted and whatever, Ann Coulter, our favorite,
Oh my
tweeted,
god.
quote, all hate crimes are hoaxes.
Oh my god.
Fuck you, Ann Coulter. So kind of going like the opposite direction, there's a positive thing that came out of the James Byrd Jr. Or like out of this act and out of the James Byrd Jr. Crime that happened,
Mhm.
that I didn't get to mention last uh episode, and I think it just like it fits in more like better with what we're talking about here with like the legal stuff. So
Mm. Mhm.
there is something called the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law, which is this is their like mission statement or whatever. A
Okay.
nonpartisan nonprofit organization formed in 1963 at the request of President John F. Kennedy. That's why I said he comes up again. To mobilize the
Okay.
nation's leading lawyers as agents for change in the civil rights movement. Today, the Lawyers Committee uses legal advocacy to achieve racial justice, fighting inside and outside the courts to ensure that Black people and other people of color have the voice, opportunity, and power to make the promises of our democracy real. The Lawyers Committee implements its missions and objectives by marshaling the pro bono resources of the bar for litigation, public policy, advocacy, and other forms of service by lawyers to the cause of civil rights. So it's kind of like the all-lawyer version of the ACLU is kind of how I interpreted it.
Okay.
I'm sure they work a lot of, like, in conjunction a lot because they have very similar, goals and aims and things like that.
Mhm.
So, after this bill was passed, they created the James Byrd Jr. Center to Stop Hate, which specifically under this, like broader committee of
Mhm.
civil rights under law, it's a more specific center just that supports communities and individuals targeted for hate and challenges white supremacy by using creative legal advocacy, disrupting systems that enable hate, and educating the general public and policymakers. So the most recent thing that they've done, and this is probably one of my favorite things because it is extremely relevant to right now, is that on January 4th, 2021, which obviously no one knew what was coming, they filed a lawsuit against the Proud Boys, which they cite as a, quote, violent all-male group with ties to white nationalism, and their leader, close quote, and their leader, Enrique Tarrio, which, how does someone like with the name
I
Enrique
know.
Tarrio end up as the
I
leader of the
know.
Proud Boys? Anyway, for vandalizing the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. So this also made me think a little bit more about, we talk about a lot like patriotism and nationalism and things like that. And I was also hearing them talk about this on Red Handed. It was like a backlog episode, but it was like probably around this time that all of this stuff was going on, but they were talking about like the difference in patriotism and nationalism. And it's really interesting because there are a lot of countries that are patriotic and that's fine. But like in 2023 specifically, and it started before 2021. It started when Trump became president, that
Yeah.
patriotism and nationalism became a very negative thing. And I was really interested in how that like happened because like when I grew up, and when you grew up obviously, but like specifically being in the South, being a patriot was like a good thing, right? Like
Yeah.
patriots were always like, or like people who were talked about being patriots were people who served in the military and who were like defending our country and our rights and all of these things. But recently it has become very enmeshed in this in this white supremacist thing. So
Yes. Yeah.
just to clarify a few of those things, dictionary.com basically boils it down to that nationalism is a more extreme version of patriotism, but that's not entirely true. Patriotism is defined as devoted love, support, and defense of one's country, comma, national or semicolon, national loyalty. So being loyal to your nation, meaning that you want to defend the US, our Constitution, our way of life, our way of doing things. But nationalism is the policy or doctrine of asserting the interest of one's own nation viewed as separate from the interest of other nations or the common interest of all nations. So in that sense, it's saying, right, that like it's more important that everybody does it the same way as the US rather than patriotism comes across more as just that we don't want anybody to tell us how to do things.
Sure. Yeah.
So in some ways it is an extreme version of patriotism, but it is also like pushing it outward. And
Yeah.
when I first read that nationalism definition, I was like, ah, shit, that's literally America, because we like push nation building on
Yeah.
everybody and we fucking suck.
Yes.
But
Yep.
it's not totally true, because military intervention and everything that we do when we are considered to be doing nation building, even though we're trying to like force our ways on other people, and you can look at like Afghanistan and Pakistan and like all these countries that we've tried to do this with,
Mm.
especially just in the last like 30
Mhm.
years, it's
Yeah.
not just because we think that like what we're doing is the best way and we think that like everybody should do it our way. It's really,
Mhm.
and I know that like people can argue this, that it's really for the stability of all nations across the world, right?
Mhm.
Because if we just continue to let ISIS rule, they are murdering people all over the
Mm.
place. They're
Yeah.
invading other countries. They're doing all of this crazy shit, versus if we allow, if when we had a little bit more of a foothold there and we were making a better democratic system in those countries, then they weren't doing that as much, right? Like there were still some
Mhm.
fringe groups. There's always
Yeah.
going to be shit like that. But
Yeah.
in overall, they weren't just out there murdering everybody. And they weren't
Mm.
like putting people in slave camps and things like that, cuz like that's right, like that's why we had such a big problem with the USSR, is that like in order
Mhm.
for communism to work, you have to eliminate all of your political opponents. And
Right.
that's like what fascism is. That's what all of these things are that we've been like fighting against forever. That you can say that we do it in the US, but we don't do it to the same extent as those other places. And the majority of Americans don't agree with those things, right? Like people were
Mhm.
upset about the Japanese concentration camps during World War II. Like people are upset about ICE in caging small children here, things like that.
Mhm.
Deportation, deportations here are not what we generally want. So, unless you are fascist.
If that's the case, turn this off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have you listened to me for
How did you
however
land
many,
here?
yeah, this many episodes? I don't know. I think that there's a little bit more to nationalism than maybe what dictionary.com is saying. Anyway,
Mhm.
the only thing that has really changed in their opinion over the years is the connotation, not the actual definition. They say that, quote, such nationalism can result in jingoism, which I've never heard that word before, which is a form of extreme nationalism promoting vigilant preparedness for war and an aggressive foreign policy. It can
Oh.
also result in isolationism, or, quote, the policy or doctrine of isolating one's country from the affairs of other nations by declining to enter into alliances, foreign economic commitments, and international agreements.
Hmm.
So, yes, a lot of like what the Proud Boys want is encompassed in that, of
Yeah.
guns and
Oh
putting
god.
people in their place, quote unquote, not agreeing with other people that we don't fully agree with and who are not going to bow down to us because they're the
Mhm.
worst. But after all of that negativity, one positive thing that came about on July 1st, 2023. So just 20 days ago at the time of recording this,
Mhm.
Proud Boys LLC, which, are you motherfucking kidding me that they're allowed to have a company, a legitimate
Can you
company?
imagine being the person that, like, at the clerk's office was helping file this fucking paperwork?
I would I would just quit. I would just be like, yeah, I'm not going to do this.
Oh.
But anyway, so Proud Boys LLC were ordered by a judge to pay more than $1 million for the attack on the church and
Yes.
destroying a Black Lives Matter sign and trespassing on the church grounds.
Hell yes.
So that is where we're going to end this, because we would like to end on some positivity that white supremacists are not going to be able to get away with this shit forever.
No. Fuck
And
no.
we have people in this Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law in the James Byrd Jr. Hate Division, whatever they're calling it. I erased it,
Mhm.
sorry. Doing the Lord's work and helping
Yeah.
us out of these very dark times.
That was cool. I really liked that one.
Thanks.
I liked this is only our second one, right?
Yes, this
Because we
is
did
on-
Casey's Law or Kaylee's Law.
We did Kaylee's Law, and now we've done the Shepard Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009.
Wow, that was good.
Thank you. Yeah. I really like looking into this stuff. I want to know everything that there is ever to know about everything. So this is a journey on that. Come with me on that journey.
I'm here. Not like I have a choice. Just kidding. No, that was good. Hopefully you guys like that too. Again, this is only our second episode of this kind of style, I guess.
The
Or
officially
coverage.
dubbed Bylaw business.
Yes, yeah, but we'll definitely do more of these. But good job, girl. That was really good. I like that.
Yeah. And don't forget, rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can't review there, but you can rate and subscribe.
And do the polls.
Yes, the polls for Spotify. Drop us a follow on the social medias at Your Next Pod on Instagram and the Twitters. And have we gotten our threads up and running? Yeah.
We've got our thread up.
Okay.
We haven't posted a goddamn thing yet, but it's there.
Okay.
So next we're doing a cult. It is our first cult case. They go by the name Unarius.
We just need a little break because all this shit was real heavy. Like all the Pride episodes, and then this James Byrd Jr. was just like a lot of death and destruction and horrible hatred. So
it was an overload, that's for sure.
Yeah, Unarius is not quite your typical cult, so it's gonna be a lot more fun, I think, than what we've been dealing with. But still definitely a cult. Don't get me wrong about that. So excited to talk about them.
Cool. Well, I'm excited.
Same. And is that it for the people?
I think that's it, you guys.
Okay. Beware. You're next.
Bye.
Bye.